Welcome, third grade, to our first science lesson online. So, today, for this week, we are going to start off with the water cycle. So, when I'm done reading through our lesson for today, I'm going to give 5 follow up questions where you will then write the answer on a separate sheet of paper and turn it in to me. So, let's get started. So, the water cycle. The atmosphere is always at work, making sure the earth is neither too hot nor too cold. The air is always moving to create wind. Water also moves in a continuous cycle. Rain helps to keep freshwater sources clean. People and animals cannot live without water. Plants cannot grow without water. God gave the earth a water cycle because all life depends on it. So, first up, evaporation. Puddles, whether you like to splash in them or walk all the way around them, they are only around for a little while. When they dry up, where does the water go? Remember, matter cannot disappear, but it can change state. So, what that means, really quick, is remember we have our solid, we have our liquid, and then we have our gas. So, those are the states, okay? The 3 states of matter. So, we've got our water in the puddles. Where does it go? Remember that it can't just disappear, it has to go somewhere, so it just changes state. So the water went back into the air as water vapor, so it goes from being a liquid into the puddle to being a gas in the air. We call this evaporation. Evaporation is always happening on Earth. Heat energy from the sun warms the Earth's water. Heat energy causes tons of water to be evaporated each day from oceans, lakes, and ponds. Plants also give off water into the air. All of this water, all of this warm water vapor rises high into the air. Condensation. So before we move on to condensation, let's quickly look at droplets, condensation, and precipitation. So a droplet is a very small drop of water. Condensation, the forming of tiny droplets of water as water vapor cools. And precipitation, any form of water that falls from the clouds to the earth, so like rain. So condensation, the temperature is much colder. Hold on a minute. So the temperature is much colder higher in the atmosphere. As water vapor rises, it begins to cool. What do you think happens when heat energy is taken away from the water vapor? The state changes again. The water vapor turns into tiny droplets. These water droplets are what make clouds. Water changing from water vapor to a liquid again is called condensation. So you have water that is going from a vapor to a liquid. So remember, vapor is a gas, and then liquid right here, okay? So we're going from a gas to a liquid, and that is condensation. Now, precipitation. What happens to these clouds? The air can only hold so much water. So when heavy clouds meet cold air, this water falls to the earth. Sometimes it falls as rain. Other times it falls as snow, sleet, or hail. Any form of water that falls back down from a cloud to the earth is called precipitation. Precipitation eventually makes its way back to the ocean, where evaporation begins all over again. The earth and the air are always exchanging water with each other in the water cycle. The ocean never gets too full, and it never dries up because the water cycle works perfectly. Even the water cycle shows us God's orderly design. God's plan for watering the earth is very wise. The Bible says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. So let's take a look at our water cycle. So, step 1, the sun heats the earth's water. So you have the sun here, and the sun rays are producing that heat energy, and it is heating up the water down here. Step 2, the water evaporates. So we're going from our liquid state to our gas state, okay? So it is evaporating, which means it goes up. Step 3 right here, warm water vapor rises. So we talked about warm air rises and cool air falls. So warm water vapor rises. Step 4, the water vapor then cools and forms a cloud. So once our heat is gone and it's cooling down, it's moving over and forming a cloud. So we can see the clouds are formed. Step 5, the cloud then cools, causing precipitation to fall. So our cloud, it becomes too heavy, and once it meets cold air, it starts to precipitate. So it could rain, snow, or hail. So if it is in the cloud right now, it is still a liquid. And then let's say it starts to snow or even hail, maybe sleet. Those right there form solids, okay? So it's going to come back down on number 5. And lastly, number 6, water is used on the earth and then it returns to the ocean. So what that means is when it rains from step 5, when it has precipitation that comes back down to the earth, either we drink it or the plants and the animals drink it, and then when that's all done, it's going to run back into the ocean. So we've got a lake here that evaporates, we've got a stream here that will evaporate, and then we also have that stream that runs into our big ocean right here. So, quick comprehension check. Multiple choice. Write the letter of the correct answer in the blank. Number 1, the blank is the source of energy that heats the earth. That would be C. The sun heats the earth. Number 2, blank is moving air. That would be D. Wind is moving air. Number 3, rain, snow, sleet, and hail are called B. Precipitation. Because remember, rain falls to the earth. Snow, sleet, and hail, they all fall to the earth. If it falls back down, starting at a cloud, it falls down to the earth, that is precipitation. Number 4, the earth and the air are always exchanging water with each other. This is called what cycle? It is D. It is called the water cycle. All right, let's talk about kinds of precipitation. Before we go on, we have snow, sleet, and hail. So snow, ice crystals of frozen water vapor. Sleet, beads of frozen rain that fall from the sky. And hail, frozen raindrops that are bounced up and down by the air in a thunderstorm before they fall to the earth in the shape of stones. So, let's start off with rain. Have you always thought that raindrops were shaped like teardrops? Many people do, but raindrops are actually perfectly round. Before a raindrop can fall from a cloud, it must grow. It begins as a tiny droplet. Because there are so many rain droplets in a cloud, they consistently bump into each other. As this happens, the droplets come together to form a larger and larger raindrop until it's too big and it will fall to the ground. Not only do we depend on rain to water plants and replenish bodies of water, but it also cleans the air. Have you ever noticed how clean the air smells after the rain? A long, hard rain can wash thousands of pounds of dust, dirt, and pollen from the air. Now let's move on to snow. When rain freezes, does that make snow? No. Snow is made in an entirely different way. Snowflakes are made of air and only a little bit of water vapor. How can this become something so beautiful then? There are tiny bits of dust floating through the air all the time. Tiny molecules of water vapor cling to each piece of dust. This is the very beginning of a snowflake. Snowflakes form when the molecules of water vapor begin to freeze or crystallize. Each snowflake is made up of thousands of tiny ice crystals. Every snowflake has 6 sides, but no 2 snowflakes are alike. Now let's move on to sleet, which we can see right here. If rain falls through freezing air, it can become sleet. By the time it reaches the earth, it is a completely frozen bead of ice. Sleet can bounce when it hits the ground. Next up, hail. Sleet usually falls in cold weather. Hail, however, falls most often in the spring and summer. Hail is ice that falls during some thunderstorms. There must be thunderclouds in order for hail to form. The pieces of ice are shaped like stones, so we often call them hailstones. Hail begins as frozen raindrops, which is sleet. They then pick up water. This water freezes and causes the frozen raindrop to get bigger. Layers upon layers of frozen water gather until the hailstone falls to the earth in the form of these huge rock-like looking things. Hailstones vary in sizes. Some are as small as peas, while others have been as large as a man's fist before. Hail can cause serious damage. Hailstones can be large enough to break windows and dent cars. They can also damage crops or hurt people and animals. So, something to remember. Precipitation types. Rain. Perfectly round raindrops, okay? Perfectly round circles fall. Snow. Remember, snow is water vapor attaching to dust that's in the air. And remember, a snowflake will only have 6 sides. Sleet. Sleet is rain, but it just has been frozen. So it's frozen beads falling to the ground. And hail, remember, hail can only happen in a thunderstorm usually. And hail happens, if we go back, hailstones are usually in the spring and summer. So for hail, there's sleet, all right, sleet, frozen raindrops. So this hail gets layers and more layers and more layers of frozen water, and then finally gets too heavy, falls to the ground. It's hail, and they can cause serious damage. Now, comprehension check. True or false? Number 1, a raindrop is first called a droplet. That is true. Number 2, snow is frozen rain. That is false. Sleet is frozen rain. Remember, snow attaches, the water vapor attaches to the dust in the air. That's what forms snow. Sleet comes from rain because it's the rain that freezes. Number 3, a snowflake forms around a tiny piece of dust. That is true. Number 4, hail falls in the winter. That is false. Hail falls in the summer or springtime when we usually have thunderstorms. All right, let's move on over here to storms. We're going to do humid, lightning, thunder, hurricane, tornado, and climate. So humid. Humid is a large amount of water vapor in the air. Lightning is electricity that jumps from one cloud to another or from a cloud to the earth. Thunder, the sound that lightning makes. Hurricane, a windstorm that builds up over the warm ocean. Tornado, a windstorm that builds up over hot land. Climate, the weather conditions an area receives over time. So let's start with storms. Can you name a kind of storm? Your answer probably depends on where you live. If you live near the ocean, you will probably say hurricane. If you live in the central or middle part of the United States, you will probably say tornado. There are also thunderstorms, blizzards, snowstorms, hailstorms, and windstorms. The air is always moving. Sometimes warm air bumps into cold air. This disturbs the air and causes a storm. The 3 most common storms in the United States are thunderstorms, hurricanes, and tornadoes. So we've got thunderstorm, hurricane, and tornado. Let's start off with thunderstorms. This very minute, there is a thunderstorm going on somewhere in the world. Thunderstorms most often occur on a humid summer day when the air feels sticky and heavy with water vapor. Thunderstorms are known for bringing heavy rain, lightning, and thunder. Lightning is electricity that jumps from one cloud to another or from a cloud to the earth. In this, the same kind of electricity that you use to power your home. Well, not exactly. Lightning comes from static electricity. Perhaps you have felt a little spark when you have gone down a slide at the park. That is because harmless static electricity has built up in your body. Each tiny water droplet also carries a little bit of electricity. Scientists believe that as the clouds fill up with little droplets, static electricity builds up. The electricity can jump from a cloud to cloud or from a cloud to the ground as lightning. Lightning that jumps from cloud to cloud cannot hurt anything, but lightning that jumps from a cloud to the earth can be very harmful. It is important to take shelter during any storm, especially if it has lightning or strong winds. Thunderstorms can be very noisy. Has a thunderstorm ever woken you up from sleep? Thunder is that sound that follows lightning. Lightning heats the air. When this hot air bumps into cold air, you hear thunder. The Bible says, He causes the vapors to extend from the ends of the earth. He makes lightning for the rain. He brings the wind out of his treasures. So this is something that you can try. If you get a balloon and some pieces of wool, you can rub them together and you can make static electricity. All right, let's move on to hurricanes. A hurricane is a whirling windstorm that begins over the warm ocean. It begins as a tropical storm, but the swirling winds build speed until the wind force is very strong. Hurricane winds cause high waves that can do much damage. Along with the powerful wind comes a very heavy rain. The rain is so heavy that it can cause flooding. The rain, wind, waves, and floods can bring heavy damage to storm areas. Tornadoes. A tornado is a windstorm that builds up over hot land. The tornado looks like a dark, spinning funnel. Because the funnel spins, the tornado is often called a twister. The funnel of a spinning air forms during a severe thunderstorm. As the air spins, it makes a vacuum force strong enough to tear buildings apart. The spinning air can also pick up trees and throw them into the air. Everyone has been frightened by a storm. It may have been a thunderstorm, a tornado, or a hurricane. No matter how hard the wind blows, the Bible tells us that the Lord has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm. God is always stronger than any storm. He is with us in times of troubles. So the Bible says, what times I am afraid, I will trust in thee. So trust in God. Now we're going to move on to weather and other climates. The earth has a variety of weather. Different types of weather happen in different places on the earth. The amount of heat energy from the sun, temperature, and the amount of precipitation an area receives over many years is called its climate. Climate is not the same as weather. Weather can change from day to day, but the climate of an area is the same for many years. Different climate areas can be divided into zones. We got frigid temperature, which is up here, which is up by like Antarctica, very cold. In frigid zones, it is always cold. In tropical zones, so tropical right here is in the middle. The tropical, the weather is very warm because it's near the equator, so it's hot. Instead of having 4 seasons, there are only 2, the rainy season and the dry season because it's so hot here. The temperature zone experiences both warm and cold weather. So temperature zone, here and here. We live in a temperature zone, so we experience both warm weather and cold weather. So we get hot summers, but we get cold winters. We get both. Frigid zone only experiences the cold temperatures. And remember, tropical zone only experiences the warm temperatures. So temperature zones have 4 seasons. We've got spring, summer, winter, and fall. So that's us. We are right here. This is where we live, and we experience all 4 seasons. No matter what kind of weather happens where you live, God controls it. The atmosphere, where all weather happens, was designed and created by Him. It is perfectly designed for life. God created the sun, which gives the energy to make all weather. When we study weather, we cannot help but see that we serve a powerful God. All right, comprehension check. So, correct the answers if they're wrong. What are the 3 most common storms in the United States? That would be the thunderstorm, a hurricane, and tornadoes. Number 2, what does humid mean? Sorry about that. I have rabbits behind me, and they're making a little bit of noise. So back to number 2. What does humid mean? Humid, there is a large amount of water vapor in the air. It's like on a hot summer day when the air feels sticky. It feels sticky to touch your skin. That would be humid. Number 3, how would you feel in humid weather? Well, you would feel sticky. Matching. Number 4, lightning is blank that jumps from cloud to cloud or from a cloud to the earth. That is A, electricity. Number 5, the sound that follows lightning is called C. That is thunder. Number 6, a blank is a windstorm that begins over the ocean. That is B. A hurricane is a windstorm. And 7, we've got a blank is a windstorm that builds up over hot land. That would be D, and that is a tornado. All right, so that is the end of our chapter. I'm going to go ahead and give you your 5 follow-up questions. Please write the answer on a separate sheet of paper. Again, you do not need to write out the question. Just write down the answer and send that in to me. So number 1, why does Earth need a water cycle? Number 2, in what seasons does hail fall? Number 3, what kind of precipitation is frozen balls of ice? Number 4, what are the 3 most common storms in the United States? And last, number 5, which climate zone is always cold? All right, I thank you for being with me through this lesson. I apologize for how loud my rabbits are being. They're a little excited, but other than that, thank you for listening, and I will see you guys next week.